I am a real life big sister, and it's a job that I take very seriously. So today I'm taking on the role of the internet's big sister. I'm sharing all the tips and tricks that help me to stay in a calorie deficit and lose about 30 pounds of fat over the last year and a half. The first thing I would tell my sister if she asked me for tips on how to lose weight is there is no physique goal worth sacrificing your mental health. If you're working on your relationship with food, this probably isn't the right video for you. I'm gonna link some resources in the description if you wanna check those out. I wish I'd seen a video like this a year and a half ago before I started my fat loss journey. I'm just gonna be brutally honest and say the things I think so many other people online are just afraid to say. These are the things that have helped me achieve my goals, and you may want to consider as tools that you can use as well. It's been so challenging, but at the same time, I have really loved my fat loss journey. And for me, it's become about so much more than just how I look. I've become more confident. I've improved my discipline. I've shown myself that I can set a goal and stick to it no matter what. And I think there's nothing wrong with physique goals as long as you're able to prioritize your mental and physical health along the way. First thing we need to talk about, you are not the problem. I feel like we've started to get an influx of advice online around fat loss that makes us feel like we are doing something wrong if it's hard. People say it should be easy, and if we can't drop weight by just eating more intuitively and adding in a daily walk, that somehow we are the problem. I'm gonna get really spicy with it, why not? People that say this are almost always selling a course, an ebook, or some type of coaching program. I'm telling you right now, the research is clear. We are hardwired not to lose weight. We have evolved over millions of years to get to this point. It is normal to find weight loss challenging. You are not the problem. Losing weight can be kind of brutal sometimes, and you may hear some of these tips and think, wow, that doesn't sound fun. And yeah, sometimes it's not fun. Weight loss certainly shouldn't consume your life, but if someone's trying to sell you an easy weight loss method, I would be skeptical. These tips are designed to make weight loss easier, or honestly just make it doable, but at the end of the day, it's very likely going to be challenging. My first tip is that the diet you choose doesn't actually matter. In terms of purely weight loss, the research shows us time and time again that the diet you choose doesn't matter as long as you get into a calorie deficit and you're able to stick to that diet. Adherence is the #1 most important thing. Personally, I dabble in lots of different strategies. I do a little bit of intermittent fasting, clean eating, and I track my calories and macros. But maybe you want to do Mediterranean or go paleo or go vegan. At the end of the day, it's an energy game. In order to lose weight, we need to burn more calories than we are eating. And there's so many different ways that we can get there. It's probably going to take some experimenting for you to see what diets and tools and strategies will work best for you. Every diet has pros and cons. And just because something can help you lose weight doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy. There was this guy that went viral losing a ton of weight by eating McDonald's for every meal of the day. And I don't think anyone would argue that eating burgers and fries for every meal is necessarily healthy for you, but a calorie deficit is a calorie deficit. If you're eating less than you're burning, you will lose weight, whether you're eating pizzas and ice cream or broccoli and chicken. Hot tip though, low calorie, high volume foods, things like fruits and veggies were essential for me during fat loss, and most people find them really helpful to lose weight. Because of the fiber and volume in these types of foods, you can stay fuller for longer and just feel more satisfied for what you're eating. Okay, let's talk about the golden rule of protein. First, let's chat about why we love protein. Firstly, it's hard for your body to break down, so we only end up netting about 70 to 80% of calories from protein because it takes so much energy for our body to break that protein down, compared to carbs and fats, which are a little bit easier to break down. Secondly, but related to the first point, protein helps keep us fuller for longer. It is genuinely hard to overeat on purely protein because it's so filling. Okay, so now we're at the golden rule, and this is the rule that I use whenever I'm looking at protein sources. I like to go for 10 grams of protein or more per 100 calories. It's a super simple, quick way to check if a food that I'm thinking about eating as a protein source is actually high in protein. So if it has 20 grams of protein, I would be looking for the item to be 200 calories or less. Or if it had 35 grams of protein, I'd be looking for 350 calories or less. You can kind of get my gist. This calculation has changed the way that I look at the world forever. Maybe you've heard of the infamous Lenny and Larry's protein cookie, which on the front says 16 grams of protein, but if you flip it over and look at the nutrition information, it's 16 grams of protein for 460 calories. Now, just for reference, the whey protein shakes that I personally drink from Orgain have 30 grams of protein per 130 calories. So I'm not gonna do the math, but you get the vibes. That Lenny and Larry's cookie is not really that high in protein when you look at the calories. And when you compare it to a traditional protein bar, certainly less protein than you would probably be looking for in a protein source. I found that when I'm able to hit that ratio of 10 grams of protein per 100 calories-ish with my protein sources, I find it a lot easier to hit my protein goals throughout the day. Certainly not everything I eat is hitting this ratio. It's something I use just for protein sources. And of course, there are lots of little bits of protein that I get throughout the day from things like milk or bread or even fruits and veggies sometimes. There's protein sprinkled into lots of things. So when we're hitting our protein goals, we're able to preserve muscle during fat loss, which is super important, and it helps keep us fuller for longer. So I found protein to be essential. My next tip might be a little bit ridiculous, but trust me, it actually does work. It is to stay busy. Here is the deal. Easier said than done, but I found when I'm staying busy and engaged with work, hanging out with friends, watching movies, I'm able to stick to my deficit so much easier than when I'm sitting on my couch daydreaming about food. I find that I often eat not because I'm hungry, but because I'm actually just bored or there's a food in my house that sounds good. So making sure that I'm staying busy and distracted and there are other things in my life that I'm passionate about and I find joy in besides just the food that I'm eating has been super helpful for me. Food still has an emotional connection for me, definitely, but the more I've been able to fill my cup with other areas of my life, the more balanced and in control I've felt, which has been really helpful during fat loss. Whether it's working, studying, going to the gym, hanging out with friends or family, staying busy means that we can waste less time thinking about food. And I always make the joke with my boyfriend that I'm gonna eat work or eat sleep when I'm like running out of calories. So there you go. That's the honest truth. My next tip is out of sight, out of mind. It sounds so simple, but I love putting the foods that I want to eat less of, so more of my treat foods like chips or candy or snacks, things like that, up at the top of my pantry. Or I'll take a chocolate bar and stick it into a little basket instead of keeping it out in the middle of my counter where I see it every day. I didn't realize I was eating these things a lot of the time just because I saw them. Like, it's not like I was sitting at my desk thinking, oh, I'm really craving chocolate right now. I would walk past my pantry, see a chocolate bar, pick it up and eat it. This also works in reverse, so I like to put the foods that I want to eat more of, like fruits and veggies and things like that, front and center in my fridge or on my counter so that I see those and I think, oh, that sounds good, and eat more of those foods. It sounds dumb, but trust me, try it, you will be amazed. My next tip is to have once a week discipline. Similar to the previous tip, I have realized I can make things so much easier on myself by just keeping healthy foods or primarily healthy foods in my house. So I really only need to have discipline once a week when I go to the grocery store. And then if I have mostly healthy foods at my house, that's just what I'm gonna eat that week. Before I go shopping, I like to make a plan and make a list so that I'm going in there with an idea of what I wanna get instead of just getting random stuff. I also like to eat a good meal so that I go in full. I can be a little bit more clear-headed than when I go in hungry. I definitely still keep treat foods at home, but if I buy a majority of healthy foods, then that's mostly what I eat during the week. Simple as that. My next tool is caffeine, which a lot of people will find that caffeine is actually a mild appetite suppressant. If you're not on the caffeine grind, I highly recommend it. It can improve both mental and physical performance, but the appetite suppressant thing works in my favor during fat loss specifically. I have 2 doses of caffeine in the morning. It really helps me to be able to fast and push off my breakfast until about 12 p.m. most days. For me, I much prefer to have a larger and more satisfying, more calorie dense lunch and dinner compared to having 3 smaller meals a day. So that's just what works best for me. Caffeine isn't going to be something that'll work for everyone, but it's something you might want to consider. Next, I love sodas and sparkling water. Just before I started filming this, I finished a citrus twist lemon lime soda. These are the Favorite Day brand from Target. I actually love these. I go for sugar-free sodas unless they are pre or probiotic sodas like Olipop or Poppy, things like that. Fizzy drinks fill up your stomach, add a lot of volume, and so temporarily I will feel a little bit fuller from drinking these, which is nice. But who doesn't love a fun drink though? Like, even when I'm done losing fat, I'm gonna keep having an afternoon drink. It just makes my day. They don't keep you full long term, but they definitely help. And I love having a fizzy drink when I'm bored and want something to eat, but I don't really have the extra calories to spare, or maybe I've just eaten and I'm kind of just bored and need a little entertainment. Next tip is drinking lots of water with food, which sounds basic, but you would be surprised how effective it actually is. First of all, odds are you're dehydrated just because a majority of US adults actually aren't drinking enough water. So hydration is amazing for mental and physical performance and just feeling our best. Outside of fat loss, I would highly recommend drinking more water. But there's also a lot of evidence that it can help us control our portion sizes if we are drinking lots of water with our meals. Obviously, the water doesn't keep you full long term, but I find that when I have it with a meal, I leave that meal feeling a lot fuller and more satisfied. I have been obsessed with gum, mints, but especially hard candy. So like Jolly Ranchers and Werther's are my current favorites. Whenever I go to the movies, I bring in my purse a plastic bag full of Jolly Ranchers. Here's why I love them. They're 20 calories each, so very low calorie. As long as you don't chew them immediately, like my boyfriend Cal does. They can last 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes even longer, and they taste amazing the entire time. Whereas a regular candy that you chew and swallow, it only lasts a couple seconds, you know? I know that I sound ridiculous, but stay with me here because sometimes you gotta do ridiculous stuff during fat loss. I love gum and mints for those times that I just want entertainment or flavor, but I don't need actual food. And I don't wanna feel left out when I go to the movies. I don't wanna go to the movies and have everyone I'm sitting with like eating lots of snacks and candy and I can't have anything. So the Jolly Ranchers help me to feel included. My next tip is a little bit sad. It is to eat out less. And I wanna be clear, you certainly can eat out at restaurants during fat loss. It's just very difficult in my experience. Here's why. It's almost impossible to correctly estimate how many calories things are. Likely the food is going to be higher calorie, ultra processed, and low in fiber. I find that I finish meals out at restaurants and I actually end up craving more ultra processed foods afterwards. I also often have to spend a ton of calories at that restaurant meal and I end up having to be really restrictive for the rest of the day to make space for that meal. And I don't have a fun time being overly restrictive like that or feeling hungry at other points in the day. So I like to save myself the calories calories, money, time, hassle, and eat most of my meals at home. I love convenience eating, so oftentimes I'll get stuff like frozen pizza or frozen mac and cheese from places like Trader Joe's, but these foods, since you're buying them at a store, will have the macronutritional information right there for you so you can be really precise with your estimates if you are calorie tracking. My next tip is to cut out alcohol. And like I've mentioned, you can make any food or drink or item fit into a calorie deficit as long as you're willing to make swaps and prioritize. But personally, I just was never able to make alcohol fit into my deficit. First of all, when I drink, I get hungry, so that is not great for fat loss. And second of all, alcohol has calories. Even just a shot of vodka has like 100 calories or something, which I didn't know until recently. And then on top of that, I like my drinks sweet and fruity. Adding those syrups and juices and sodas and things like that also adds calories. I don't have enough calories in my day to be drinking like that. I would way rather have a big bowl of goldfish at the end of the night than have a cocktail. And plus, I'm not in my hangover era anymore. I'm 24 and I am way too old for that. So my next tip relates to exercise, which is to add it in to help accelerate your fat loss goals, but not to rely on it. For example, a very, very intense 60-minute lifting session for me will only burn a couple hundred calories, which I could eat back with only 4 Oreos. It's crazy how much effort it takes to burn calories through exercise. It can certainly accelerate fat loss goals, and these small incremental changes you make to be more active over time certainly do add up. And of course, if you want to get a certain specific look, or if you have specific goals like becoming a runner, or maybe you want to have abs, so you want to build up the muscle in that area to get that like sculpted look, of course exercise is going to be a part of that. And I'm a huge advocate for exercising for your mental and physical health, longevity, well-being. There are so many benefits, but in terms of purely fat loss, I've seen it as a tool that can help me get there, but the majority of my work has had to be nutrition based. When I was trying to get most of my calorie deficit from exercise, I was really struggling. So just something to think about. My next tip is about patience and being consistent. If you're doing the right things and you're not seeing progress, just be patient. Weight loss progress is not linear. Sometimes I won't lose weight for weeks and then suddenly I'll drop a few pounds out of nowhere. Our metabolism is complicated. Your weight on the scale is impacted by so many factors, like where you are in your menstrual cycle if you're a female, supplement intake, whether or not you exercise the day before, water retention, sleep. There are so many different factors. It's not worth trying to understand, but it is worth having faith that if you are doing the right things and putting in the work and staying consistent, you will see those results. And trust me, I have proven that to myself time and time and time again. The science supports that, so trust me, it is not different for you. If you are putting in the work, you will see those results if you are patient. My final and perhaps most important tip is to beware of smoke and mirrors online. It is a really common trend right now to see fitness influencers sharing their what I eat in a days, and they're eating pizzas and burgers and saying that they maintain at a really high calorie intake, which I get it sells, right? Who doesn't want to eat pizza and burgers all day and be really shredded? But here are some things to keep in mind when you see that type of content. First of all, people may be exercising a ton to be able to eat that much. They also may have developed a higher metabolism over years of training just because they have a lot of muscle mass, or they could be lying. I started to have a lot more success with my weight loss journey when I stopped comparing myself to other people online or using people's what I eat in a days as any kind of structure to go off of. I still love getting inspiration, meal ideas, tips, recipes from people online, but following someone else's what I eat in a day exactly, or seeing that and wondering why you can't maintain at that same amount, is just not going to be helpful. And plus, you never know what's really going on behind the scenes or in the background. A lot of this could just be completely untrue. So don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. I just always try and stay in my own lane, and that has been really helpful for me. If you are on a fat loss journey or thinking about starting one, I hope this video has been helpful. You may also enjoy my Project Abs series, where I'm taking you along on the journey to try and get visible abs in 8 weeks and sharing my honest experience along the way. I'm gonna link that series up here in case you want to check it out. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure to subscribe. I upload new videos every 3 days, and I will see you next time.